Most ridiculous thing to do. Like, if there's one person on this planet that ever lived that you should admire, it is the Queen.
How can you come back from attacking your father's wife and your brother's wife? William always made it clear, if he comes for Kate, that's it. These two are privileged people. They are not victims. The thing that Harry doesn't realise, because Harry is quite a stupid guy as well as being quite a nasty guy.
What?
So you broke the Harry and Meghan exit.
Yes, Megxit.
Megxit, as it's being called.
We created that.
Wow. Your legacy.
Nice.
It was a genius, though. It wasn't me. It was one of the geniuses at The Sun who created us. But it was on my story. But I will not take credit for actually inventing it.
Right. So, what's the truth behind that story then?
Well, the truth is that I had been the first person to, and this is a couple of years beforehand, to pick up on the fact that there were huge issues with Harry and Meghan within the royal family.
So that was a f***ing lie.
And again, the way that royal reporting works, Rob, is actually really corrupt. Like, a lot of the public won't know about this, but there's this thing called the Royal Rota. And they are the official sanctioned journalists who work for a handful of newspapers, a handful of broadcasters, you know, the biggies, the BBC, ITV, the Telegraph, the Sun.
Okay.
And they are the only people that are officially allowed to cover the royal family. So they get the official press releases. They're allowed to speak to the communications secretaries. So if you're a journalist on a newspaper that doesn't have that access, you're actually not meant to report stories on the royal family.
What?
And so these journalists who are on the Royal Rota, they follow the royal family around, they attend events with them, they go on trips with them where they'll be on the plane having a cozy conversation with King Charles.
Nice.
So the problem is they're too close to the people who they're meant to be holding accountable, who they're meant to be breaking stories about. So how I got involved is actually, I think, quite interesting, because The Sun is a big royalist paper.
Are you serious?
And on the whole supports the monarchy, but there was an editor of The Sun, a guy called Tony Gallagher, who's now the editor actually of the Times newspaper, very successful editor. He's edited the Daily Telegraph before as well. He's a bit of a Republican. And so he was very brave in terms of allowing me to get involved in what was, I thought, the biggest story in the world at the time.
Boring.
And what the story was, and what no one had reported right at all at this time, is that there was basically a massive fallout going on behind the scenes of the royal family. So the Queen, the late Queen, had fallen out with Harry over Meghan's behaviour. Kate, or Catherine, Princess Catherine, I'm trying to call her that, because people get angry when you call her Kate, because she wants to be known as Catherine now. She's the future king.
Is y'all right upstairs?
So Princess Catherine had fallen out with Meghan, and no one had written a word about this. And so I was the first person to sort of put my head above the parapet, totally backed by my brilliant editor at the time, and we ran the story. And the story was that the Queen had called Prince Harry into a private meeting to say that Meghan's behaviour was completely unacceptable and she had to pull her neck. And now this was all about what tiara she wore at the wedding. It actually became known as Tiara Gate. Because Harry has put his own spin on the story. Meghan's put her own spin on the story. And within that story, I also revealed the falling out between Meghan and Kate, which was, or as far as I knew it at the time, I think it actually runs a lot deeper, but it was over the way that Meghan had been speaking to Kate's staff members at Kensington Palace. Now, for a couple of months, no one really followed up on any of this. And it was like, oh, who's this Dan Wootton thinking that he can report on the royal family? Who does he think he is? Stick to showbiz. Stick to appearing on the Lorraine show. This is our beat. And I would say to them, well, you're not real reporters, are you? You're stenographers. You're PR operatives. Because this is the biggest story going on. They're all falling out. They've fallen out. I mean, look at what Harry's now revealed in his book. But slowly but surely, I kept on with these stories. I kept on revealing the truth. And eventually, the rest of the British media caught up with me. Well, you can imagine, as a result, I'm a real target. Harry, really dislikes that I've revealed the truth about what's going on.
Good job.
And it wasn't done at that point out of any personal malice. I have a lot of personal malice towards Harry and Meghan now because they've tried to cause me so many difficulties.
What have they done?
Oh my God. So they made a false accusation, a completely false accusation that I had broken the law. Here we go again, the weaponization of the police. That I'd somehow broken the law by paying a public official for stories about them. Well, I hadn't. That did not happen. It categorically did not happen. They filed a lawsuit to try and scare me, but they ended up withdrawing it because it was untrue. But the police investigated, Kensington Palace investigated. It's really stressful to go through something like that. And again, I'm like, my journalism is completely legal. It is completely legitimate. It's completely above board. I've never hacked a phone. I've never used a private investigator even. Like, I am a very straight down the line journalist. I talk to people.
Okay.
That's all I do. I talk to people. Sometimes I pay them, right? But I only pay them if they are legally able to be paid.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
So I would never pay a public official. I'd never pay a police officer. You can't do that. It's against the law. It's not against the law in America, but in the UK, it is against the law. So he did that. Then he tried and turned other members of the royal family against me. Then he turned some of my celebrity sort of acquaintances against me, like James Corden. What? And then he branded me a sad little man in his autobiography, Spare. So he really dislikes me.
Yes, exactly.
But again, I would just say I was never trying, I wasn't ever trying to destroy Harry and Meghan. It's just, this is a very legitimate story. Like, I find it astonishing to believe that he doesn't realize that Harry and Meghan leaving the royal family, that Harry doesn't understand that that is a story with vast constitutional repercussions.
What?
And that it has there's a complete public interest justification in a story like that.
Do you think this whole Megxit and the Harry and Meghan scandal was the start of the end of the royal family as we know it?
No. Absolutely not. And I was shocked by the Daily Mail the other day. You know, after the Kate photoshopping scandal, they ran a big front page saying, this is the 11th hour for the royal family. What rubbish. Look at what the royal family has got through and survived. I mean, the royal family survived the abdication of the king so that he could go off and have a relationship with the American divorcee Wallis Simpson. And by the way, that couple loved Hitler. They were Hitler loving. And the royal family survived that. The royal family survived Princess Diana and the death of Princess Diana, even though Princess Diana had written a letter saying that she thought she was about to be killed in a car accident. I mean, the royal family has survived a lot.
Do you think Diana was killed?
You better answer the fucking question.
No, but I think it's a legitimate area of investigation.
That doesn't make sense.
And I think, just like William and Harry, I've certainly had suspicions over the years.
What are your suspicions with William and Harry?
Boy.
I think William and Harry have had doubts about the official version of events around their mother's death.
Wow.
And I think they had good reason to.
Okay.
Because of the note she had written. But the likelihood is it was Henri Paul, an incredibly drunk driver making very reckless decisions.
Are you serious?
But I think it's legitimate, given the way that Diana was challenging the establishment in a relationship with Dodi. I think it was legitimate to ask questions, just like I still ask questions about the assassination of JFK, because it feels completely unrealistic to think that there was not a second gunman possibly on the grassy knoll. Do you know what I mean? I mean, and it's like Diana's death is sort of up there with JFK as one of those shocking moments of the 20th century. And there was a lot of circumstantial evidence around it to suggest that all was not what it seemed. I mean, the fact that she had literally written a note saying that she thought her brakes were going to be tampered with in a car accident. I mean, come on. There was definitely reason to open the official inquiry.
Are you serious?
But that doesn't mean that I sign up to the Muhammad al-Fayed narrative, which was that Diana was killed by the British establishment. But I think it was worthy of investigation, and I think William and Harry agree with that.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
But I think we've probably got the answer now, which is why my answer to your question was no, but I've never found, the owner of the white Fiat.
That doesn't make sense.
And there are just like JFK, I think there will always be questions asked. And Marilyn Monroe, there will always be questions asked about the deaths of those icons. But is it just because we can't accept our icons dying at a time when they're at the height of their power and the height of their beauty? I mean, yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it? That's one I'm open. I just think I mean, people say you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not, actually. I'm really not. But I'm open to challenging the official narrative on things. And I think that's really important that we do that on a whole load of issues.
A net leadership rating of -19. And that's what I call Prince Harry territory. And I tell you, I think if this government keeps going the way it is, by Christmas he's going to be in Prince Andrew territory.
Breaking right now, it is all collapsing for this new government.
Okay.
Slippery Starmer mired in so much more scandal as the flurry of revelations about the dodgy money and favours that he took from Lord Ali are threatening to overwhelm his new government. Now, Matt Goodwin at the Reform UK conference said that Starmer is in Prince Harry territory, but it might be about to get a lot worse. Watch this.
Now that gives him,
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
in my world, a net leadership rating of -19. And that's what I call Prince Harry territory. And I tell you, I think if this government keeps going the way it is, by Christmas he's going to be in Prince Andrew territory.
Matt Goodwin, Keir Starmer, extraordinarily unpopular. He has had a disastrous start.
He really has, Dan. I mean, just simply through the lens of polling, he's collapsed about 30 points since becoming Prime Minister. I mean, if this was a Conservative in office, you can
Wait for it.
imagine the reaction from the media class. There'd be calls for resignation. There'd be, outrage. I mean, remember the early days of Liz Truss or some of the days of Boris Johnson. But this is a government that is
Here it comes.
incredibly unpopular very quickly. Indeed, I argued this would happen before the election. It's not just Keir Starmer, by the way, Dan. It's also Rachel Reeves. She's collapsed about 30 points. Fascinating polling last week from YouGov. They said to the British people, give us 5 words or phrases that come to mind when you think about the Labour Party, and not a single one in the top 5 was positive. It was dishonest, doesn't represent the values of ordinary people, looks after itself, etc., etc. They're all the same, was the basic view. And I think this scandal, to me, it's less about Lord Ali and the ins and the outs and the detail.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
To me, Dan, it's about a deeper point, which is Keir Starmer says he's playing by the rules, and he might be playing by the rules. But I tell you what he's not playing by is something that is absolutely central to our culture in this country, which
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Okay.
is the British people's sense of fair play. Is this guy treating us with respect? Is it fair play? Is it balanced? And on the conclusion of the British people, the answer is an emphatic no. Are you serious? Looks like he's taking everybody for a ride. I mean, Dan, he earned over £400,000 last year.
Yes, he's worth
now.
10
Why does a
million.
guy earning over £400,000
He's got
need
a massive
free
pension
glasses
pot
and suits? I mean, come on, let's get real here for a second. And as you know, having gone through the Partygate scandal, you documented the reaction to that meticulously. There is an incredible hypocrisy, not just within the Labour movement, but actually, I would argue, much of the media class and the political class.
Okay.
Which came down on the Conservatives like a ton of bricks. And I think certain journalists, who I will be diplomatic and not name, have struggled with the current scandal engulfing the Labour Party because they're showing their own political bias.
Well, I mean, I will name one, Paul Brand, who went after Boris Johnson relentlessly over, let's be honest, in the end, a piece of cake. He has not yet reported on this scandal. Well, I hope he's looking into it because there have been new developments today. And Matt, I know what you mean about sort of the details don't matter because in a lot of ways they don't. It is about the hypocrisy, but I do sometimes wonder if
Wait for it.
there are those iconic images that relate to scandals like this. So I want to show you the video of Starmer's message that was given to the British public. This was in December 2021. Omicron had happened. I mean, by this point, I would say the lockdown restrictions are absolutely ridiculous. You should all do whatever you want. He was saying, you've got to stay at home. And this was the message that he filmed.
Wait for it.
With a bookshelf behind him. I want you to look at this carefully because there are family pictures on this bookshelf. So the clear implication, the message that is being given to the British public is here
it comes.
Keir Starmer speaking to you from his home, given he's telling you to work from home.
At times like this, we must all put the national interest first.
Okay.
And play by the rules. Of course, I understand that sticking to the rules can be inconvenient. But stick to the rules.
Now, Matt, I do just wonder if that is going to resonate with people because...
What?
It's so obvious that Lord Ali would not have had a photo of Keir Starmer's family on his bookshelf. This was manipulation, wasn't it?
Very good question.
I mean, this is going to become the story of the weekend. It's going to be debated for the next couple of days. It's going to become bigger, but it may well then become the story of the year.
Stop it.
If Keir Starmer continues to handle it as badly as he has done, like after the riots and the protests, he seems to be unable to understand why the public mood is the way that it is. Even